What is the stupidest sh*t you've ever done? Hit a golf ball onto a recently drained lake and decided it was playable from the mud. On my third step onto the lake I sank up to my chest. Took a chain of 3 people to pull me out. And my god, the smell. Using my thumb to wipe the hair off my razor in the shower. Was baking bread and had a Pyrex dish with water in the bottom of the oven for moisture. Checked the oven. Water was gone. My dumbass decides I need to pour more water in. A split second flash of what would happen goes through my brain, but I do it anyway. Cool tap water plus hot Pyrex and boom. Sh*t explodes everywhere. I've been finding random bits of Pyrex in my kitchen for years now. So. That. And heroin. Saw on a tube of superglue that it said bond skin instantly. I was wondering what instantly meant exactly. Was it in a few seconds or did they mean right then? So I glued my fingers together, the thumb and first 2 fingers on my right hand. And stayed that way for 2 hours until my mother came home because I didn't know that acetone will dissolve superglue. And. Before you ask. I was 17. When I was a kid. My parents were watching a show where they were finding gems, gold inside of rocks, and I obviously wanted to find gold too. So I went outside and threw a giant rock on the ground and it ended up bouncing right into our glass sliding door. Shattered. Forgot my own phone number while leaving my client a voicemail. This was yesterday. Drunkenly ate 2 Carolina Reapers. Buddy's dad grows peppers. Next thing I know I'm over the toilet puking up what felt like lava. When I was a kid I had really dry eyes for a time and I told my sister. Between us we decided that the best course of action was to smear a bunch of my mum's face cream into my eyes to try and stop the dryness. This, of course, went as well as you'd expect and my eyes immediately went red and swollen, and since I couldn't blink away the thick layer of cream straight away I was convinced I was blind forever and went blundering out into the hallway crying and made it halfway down the stairs before I tripped and fell. Paid $500 for bartending lesson certification and haven't tended bar once in all my 29 years or even really tried. I was 4 or 5 years old and my little brothers and I were jumping on our parents' waterbed with Q-tips in our ears cause we thought it looked funny. I was jealous that my brothers both had Q-tips that were bent in silly shapes in their ears while mine were perfectly straight. I jumped off the top of the headrest and landed ear first on the bed in an attempt to bend my Q-tip more than theirs to assert dominance as the eldest brother. Q-tip pierced through my eardrum and went all the way inside my ear. Looking back I don't think I've ever heard of anyone doing anything stupider than that in my whole life. I don't think I've ever heard of anyone doing anything stupider than that in my whole life. Is it because you can't hear? You know. Because of the Q-tip pierced eardrum? When I was a kid, I took my Nintendo apart so that I could use the parts to build a remote control airplane. We got drunk at some chick's house who I'd never met before. The place got pretty trashed, so when she went to bring a friend home she asked if we'd clean up a bit. I'm still pretty lit at this point and see all these half full cups all over. The kitchen sink was full, so the best idea I could come up with was vacuum out the liquid and dump the cups. It makes the funniest gurgling, slurping sound I've ever heard, so I go about sucking up about 100 ounces of liquid into this vacuum. The chick comes home while I'm about 90% through all the glasses and stops dead. I turn around and look at the vacuum, which is one of those old ones with a fabric bag on it. And it's a deluge of jungle juice pouring into the carpet. I turn back to her, completely deadpan as the concept of what's happening is only now dawning on my alcohol-soaked brain, and say your vacuum cleaner's drunk. She promptly kicked us out and I never saw the poor girl again. Moral of the story. Don't let TTY 16-year-olds get drunk at your house. Probably that time I full on sh*t my pants in the street. Waddled a block home to use my bathroom. Then dropped my keys into my filthy toilet while I was trying to take off my sh*t-ty pants. Broke the window of the principal's office. Not on purpose. I was throwing a stone at a tree, but my aim was so bad it took a 90 turn and went right into his window. I didn't do it, but I nearly jumped off a 30-meter drop without a safety cable attached to me. I think it was meant to be a bungee thing without bouncing back up. I was just so ready to get it over with. I didn't look before I leapt, and the guy on the deck with me grabbed me when he saw I was ready to jump and yelled holy. I haven't attached the cable yet. Nearly died over something so stupid. My excuse is that I was 14 at the time. Edit. Wow, this blew up. My top comment is how I was a dumbass during my teen years. Great. A little background: I had my eyes shut the whole time I was up there. So when he attached the harness and said all set, I thought that was my cue to go I. Also, it was an auto belay. Edit. Q. Damn autocorrect. You spared that guy a roller coaster of horror and hilarity at the dumb kid who yeeted themselves off the edge without a bungee. Lost my phone in my bedroom. To help locate it, I tried calling it using my phone. Brought a BB gun to school to trade with my friend for his PlayStation. Sadly though, the BB gun looked like a real gun and was just after Columbine, and I went to school in Colorado. A student saw it and reported it, and shit hit the fan pretty damn hard for me in 5th grade. Got expelled for it and made the local newspaper. When I was 4, I made a spider out of paper cleaners, then got scared of it. Drunkenly sold my landlord's lamps while living in her apartment. I once tried to eat my phone while wearing a mask because I simultaneously forgot that I had the mask on and also forgot which hand was carrying my phone and which was carrying the cookie I was eating. Edit. I remembered another one. Was dreaming I was swishing some mouthwash around. Then I woke up halfway. Just enough to realize that I no longer had a sink in front of me, but not enough to realize that I didn't actually have Listerine in my mouth. Figuring I couldn't just swallow mouthwash, I instead elected to spit into my blanket and wash it later. This was a conscious thought process, albeit one heavily muddled by sleep. A couple of years ago, the 4th of July was a few days away. So all of the stores had decorations and clothes with stars or red, white, and blue. In a busy clothing store, I, with no hesitation, picked up a shirt with a blue star on it, and across the clothing section I asked my mom, "Mom, when is the 4th of July? Full stop." You can imagine how embarrassing that was when everyone turned and looked at me. I can only think of what was going through their minds. When Halloween lands on Friday the 13th, you're gonna see some shitty. I tell you. I knowingly walked through gang territory late into the night by myself. I accidentally cut off a car full of gang members in a supermarket car park this week. They chased me and I drove like all hell. I walked across a working train trestle. It was like 100 feet into a rocky gulch either side. 100% chance of death if a train came. Also, when I was little, I decided I wanted to throw a pair of shoes up onto some telephone wires. So I went in my mom's closet to find some shoes. For some reason I thought she'd be less likely to notice if I didn't take a complete pair, so I tied 2 random shoes together with the laces from a different shoe. Then threw them on the telephone wire in front of my house. Paid $60,000 on a house renovation without really vetting the contractor. It looks okay and they worked hard enough, but they didn't address a flaw that was sagging. Now it's very noticeable and extremely hard to rectify without dismantling the entire kitchen. I stumbled into an emergency shutdown button in a water purifying plant. Received a hefty compensation claim. Edit. By that I mean I had to reimburse the company for the damage I caused by pressing that button. Forgive me. I worked in a medical office when I was 18. I asked an elderly blind lady if she wanted something to read while she waited. She said no thank you. And I realized later how effing stupid I was. Hiding in a basement with my cousins at their house. Burning styrofoam with a lighter we stole. Decided to pour a cup or so of gasoline on it. It inevitably exploded onto us all. We all ran out of the basement while on fire, went out pretty quickly, only burned the clothes, and ran straight to the grown-ups upstairs. Luckily they stopped the fire from spreading in the basement. Fun fact: mixing styrofoam and gasoline is one way to create napalm. Had a friend move in with me and my girlfriend because his depression was worsening due to living with his mom at 26. Gradually began bad-mouthing me in front of and behind my back to my girlfriend. This evolved into her going to him with things she didn't like or agree with in our relationship. This ended up leaving me virtually homeless to be with him when she kicked me out during Christmas New Year's holiday. Walked across a frozen lake that wasn't frozen enough. Fell through current, almost sucked me under the ice. I got my hands around the top before I went under. Getting addicted to heroin. Last used was June 2017 when my stuff was cut with fentanyl and I overdosed standing in line at a CVS to buy insulin needles. Good thing I didn't get a chance to put it in my arm. Waiter: how was your food? Me. When I was in college, about 19-20 years old, my friend and I, both female, both super drunk, were standing outside a gas station at about 2 AM waiting for someone of age to come along and buy us beer. Eventually a few slightly older guys that we'd never seen before came by and said they had beer back at their place and would we like to go hang out with them? We thought that was an A+ idea. They then said the best way to get to their place was a shortcut through the woods behind the gas station. After zero thought whatsoever, we said, "Lead the way." Remember, this was in the middle of the night and we're pissed drunk. This was also pre-cell phones. So, off we go into the woods with these strange men. There's not much more to the story other than we made it out of there a few hours later without getting Law and Order SVU'd. And interestingly, both my friend and I actually went on to date two of the guys for a while. But seriously, people, don't follow strange men into the woods in the middle of the night. I went to a coffee shop with my family and ordered an iced hot chocolate. My mom proclaims, "Oh, that's just chocolate milk." As I'm about to argue, the barista chimes in and says, "Yeah, that actually is just chocolate milk." But I ordered it anyways and drank my iced hot chocolate in shame because it is indeed just chocolate milk. My PS2 copy of NFL Street wasn't really loading right, so I thought it was a good idea to rub it on the wall to clean it. It didn't work. Tried to have a constructive conversation with someone with a differing opinion via social media. Hiding hot dogs in a few of my school's fire extinguisher boxes. That was funny. The stupidest came when one of my friends took a bite a month later without knowing how long it had been there. After closing the pool for the day, I allowed my fellow lifeguard to strap me down into a backboard and send me down a large water slide. I flipped over to be face down and started drowning. No one was at the bottom of the slide. I could not leave the backboard or flip over. Meth. What a mistake that was. Filled up a spent CO2 cartridge with gunpowder. Stuck a fuse in. Lit it. Then stood there holding it in a vice-grip till it went off. I was lucky I didn't put enough gunpowder in it for it to fragment when it blew up. The next time, I made sure I did put in enough gunpowder. But I ran and hid after lighting it. Later on, I learned that's what is called a pipe bomb. I drunkenly stumbled into 3 cops in like 5 seconds. At a bar and was looking back to say hi to a friend I just ran into. Accidentally shouldered a cop. Apologized and turned around without looking and ran into 2 others right there. They were not fans of mine. I also told 2 cops that I had been doing coke. I was walking home one morning after my Lime scooter ran out of juice and I started hitchhiking. 2 cops stopped and offered me a ride home. They asked about my night and were amazed how far I walked and asked how drunk I was. I said not too drunk. I got kicked out of the bar for doing coke in the bathroom. The dude cop was laughing his ass off and said, "You can't say that to us," and the lady cop was just visibly pissed. I told him it's fine. I'm leaving the country in 2 days. Waiter. Do you want soup or salad? Me. Yes. Waiter. No. No. Soup or salad? Me. Oh. Soup. Waiter. Leaves? Me. To my ex-BF, we can never come here again. Heroin. Took 8 years to find my way out. In my high school band, there was a small metal sign that said Moxie above the doorway. On our way out to practice or to go to a parade or something, we would hit it for good luck. The entire time I was there, I thought it would be funny if someone hit it with their head. In my senior year, I decided to try it. My plan was to jump up and tilt my head forward to tap it. I decided to do a practice jump. Instead of jumping up and tilting my head after, I jumped straight into the metal doorframe at a diagonal trajectory. My head was bleeding a lot and I probably had a concussion. But luckily one of my friends had recently done a first aid course to become a lifeguard and was able to help. It was stupid and it hurt, but it is one of my favorite memories from high school. Went on a 20+ kilometer hike in 45°C weather in AZ in August by myself on 2 hours of sleep. Thank God I had lots of water. I got lost, but thankfully after 2 hours found my way out. I have been sleeping for 4 hours max the last 4 days. And the day before the hike I slept 2 hours. Dumbest thing I have done so far. Pretended to be blind while trick-or-treating so I'd get more candy. I bought a shiny black convertible with 40k miles on it and no airbag sensors. I didn't find out about the lack of sensors until after I crashed the car. Eater. I know there were no sensors in the car because I sold the wreckage to another Pontiac enthusiast who rebuilt it to show quality. Something must have been wrong with the steering wheel or column, because he opened it up and noticed aftermarket airbag canisters and no sensors. So whoever owned the car before me had an bad enough accident to deploy the original airbag. Instead of reporting it to their insurance, they had it repaired off the books. Threw a house party for my 17th birthday. Not too stupid in theory, but my parents were only out of the house for about 3 hours and I knew in advance that was the time frame we had. Figured I could get everyone to leave before the adults returned home. I was wrong. Picture the scene of my parents walking through the front door. After a prayer group, my best friend sat in our empty bath being sick all over herself. Another friend having chocolate sauce licked off her chest. Someone dressed as Hugh Hefner hiding tea bags in random places around the house for my poor mum to find. I won't go into too much detail about where I was, but I wasn't exactly fully clothed at the time. They grounded me for such a long time. First and last time I ever rebelled. I let my ex-GF freeze a banana and stick it up my ass. I'm so accustomed to wearing my mask now that when I coughed up some phlegm from the chest and went to spit, I forgot I was wearing one and it went all over my mouth, nose, and chin. Started laughing hysterically covered in my own spit. Probably looked like a psychopath. I was anticipating having sex for the first time and decided to completely shave my entire area down there, and when the girl saw my junk she laughed and said, "I like men, not children," and walked away. I like to think that she actually said and walked away. Tackled a vacuum cleaner with a long coat on it at 3:00 AM. Smoking cigarettes was probably the dumbest thing I ever did. I only smoked for a few years in my youth and I quit years ago. But I'm afraid of any lingering effects that might crop up as I get older. A still on fire flaming shot. 2nd-degree burns on my lips and chin was up. Ate a habanero pepper when I was dehydrated and overheated. I had dry chapped lips. No saliva in my mouth and I was spent. I picked up what I thought was a pepper and up from a Papa John's pizza box. It was in fact not what I thought it was. It was a habanero pepper. And it melted my face. My mouth hurt, burned, ached, blistered. And no amount of water was helping. I suffered for 3 hours. It was the most traumatic moment of my life. Water does not help. You need milk to stop it. Or something fatty. Stood at the door of my apartment for about 90 seconds pressing the unlock button on my car keys, wondering why I couldn't get in.